Well, hello there. This is Cliff Cerce with another edition of Music and the Word with the Cerces, and this is a special broadcast. Now, almost a year ago, back in April of 2018, I was with my good friend Dave Kyllonen and my friend Jack Sipe, and the three of us were involved in a 2-hour radio broadcast, and out of that, we're going to bring you an hour of that broadcast, and this broadcast was actually targeted specifically for truck drivers. It's really important because we were talking about the upcoming Ecuador trip. Now, on last week's broadcast, I brought you a phone call that I had with Dave explaining how this whole dream that he had started. Well, he expands on that more on this particular broadcast because this was 6 months before he and I and two others made an exploratory first advanced trip to Ecuador to figure out what to do and how to do it. And then he was supposed to go with us just weeks ago in February on the final trip that we went to put all of this together. And he was in the hospital and just barely got out of the hospital a day or two before we left. And he had to miss the trip. And he was our leader. Well, just a few days ago, Dave went back into the hospital with a relapse. And it breaks our heart because our brother is in the hospital. They said he'll be out in 4 or 5 days and he'll be okay. But it's just breaking our heart that he's had these health issues. Many of you gospel music fans remember the Couriers and what a tremendous group they were, how they influenced this whole new generation of gospel singers, how many that are major gospel singers today came off the front seats of the Couriers concerts. Dave was the manager of that group for so many years. And so we're going to go back to that broadcast that we had just almost a year ago. And we're going to let you pick up on that broadcast. You'll hear myself, Dave Kyllonen, and Jack Sipe as we're talking. This is from April 2018.
Good evening. This is Dave Kyllonen. I live in Pennsylvania. I live in the little community of Dillsburg. It's about 10 miles south of the big capital city of Harrisburg. I am involved tonight in a different kind of a program than you've ever heard before. I have two other gentlemen who are a part of this network. I have Cliff Cerce from Missouri, and I have Jack Sipe, who lives here in Dillsburg with me. We go to the same church, and we decided to do a broadcast, all three of us together. And so just get a cup of coffee and sit back and relax. If you're driving, keep your eyes on the road, but listening. God will open your heart and will touch you.
Hey, before we do that, we want to hear your song. Can we do that? Can we put your song in here real quick?
Yeah, what is it, Judy and I?
Yeah, well, you know what? Back in 1981, we went to the recording studio together.
81.
1981.
We're talking,
whoa! That was 37 years ago.
Wow. I haven't heard this long. I have 37 years ago. You got me on record.
Yeah, and we went to the recording studio.
Bring it on.
And it was so long ago. I played the string machine, and they were really crude back then. But I'll tell you what, instead of playing the regular piano on your album, back in the days when they had the Fender Rhodes electric piano, I played. That was the big thing out there. You listen to the Carpenters or any of the groups, they used the Fender Rhodes. I brought a Fender Rhodes piano. I said, I'm going to put some modern music. It was contemporary for the times, man. And so you got, I think it was Chuck Girard who wrote that beautiful song, Sometimes Hallelujah. What a gorgeous song that was. And you and Judy sang that. Man, it was the jewel of that album. And I've got that with me. And so we're going to put that right into this broadcast. Okay. You and Judy 37 years ago singing Sometimes Hallelujah.
Sometimes hallelujah, sometimes praise the Lord, sometimes gently sing our hearts in one accord. Sometimes sometimes praise the Lord. us lift our voices, look toward the sky and start to sing. Oh, let us now return his love. Just let our voices ring. Sometimes hallelujah, sometimes praise the Lord, sometimes gently singing, our hearts in one accord.
Oh, let us feel his presence. Let the sound of praises fill the air. Oh, let us sing this song of Jesus' love to people everywhere.
Sometimes hallelujah, sometimes praise the Lord, sometimes gently singing, our hearts in one accord.
So let the Spirit overflow as we are filled from head to toe.
We love you, Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, and we want the world to know. Sometimes hallelujah, sometimes praise the Lord, sometimes gently singing, our hearts in one accord.
Wasn't that great? That's a great song, man. Okay.
Woo!
Okay, you can have your hour back now.
Okay, I was getting ready to talk about dreams. I'm a dreamer. My family, they always said, "Dad, you got so many things going in your mind that you want to do." Well, I was elected to be the booker of the Couriers singing group, and when they did what I said, I got to go where I wanted to go. I visited all 50 states, and I'd never been out of Pennsylvania before I met the Couriers.
Wow.
And I decided, hey, this is my chance. I'm booking. I'll go to every state. And we did. We traveled to every state. Then I found Canada, and I said, man, why don't we go from Newfoundland to the Yukon? And we did all that in between. Wow. I was the booker. And then a guy came on the bus and said, you guys ought to do something foreign. Get out of America. You've seen it all. Why don't you go to some other nation and do the foreign missions? And he said, I'll tell you what. He said, I'll book you the first trip, and then you can go there from there on. We did the first trip with him. He took us to Jamaica, to Barbados, to Trinidad, to Guyana, South America. We loved it. It was, and then it was my turn to say, okay, Dave, for 12 years, we're going to give a month to the Lord for free to missions. And I got to look at the world map, and I said, Dave Kyllonen, you can go where you want. These guys will follow you. And we went to all 60 countries. Wow. We had a blast. And being a dreamer, you always wanted to be able to say that there was a college president that really challenged me to say, Dave, you've got a dozen dreams. You can't even sleep at night. What is your deepest dream? And I had to think about that.
Wow.
And
That's quite a question.
He told me a story. He said when he was a little kid, he always loved the symphony orchestra, and he looked at all the instruments, and he didn't know which one to play. And when he grew up, he had a chance to say, can I get in the symphony orchestra? I'm in the 9th, 10th, 11th grade. These are big years for being in the symphony. And finally, there was only one instrument left, and it was the tuba. And so here's this guy. He's in 10th grade. He got so excited about his deep dream. He said, I'm going to learn how to play this better than anybody in America. And so he spent 8 hours a day for a whole year playing the tuba. I don't know what you play on the tuba. It's something like boom, 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 boom,
really?
Beep, boom, 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 you know. How do you play that for 8 hours a day for a year? And when the year was over, he didn't know how good he was. So there was an ad in the paper from the Boston Symphony. Their tuba player, they only have one. He was retiring, and now they offered that there was 350 tuba players in America that were going for the job. And so he said, "Oh, how good I am!" So he went to a tuba concert where they had 11 tuba players, and he had a chance to play. And he saw himself for the first time. Said, "I'm not as good as I thought I was. I played for a year." He said, if I can't even make it through these guys, how could I ever get to the Boston Symphony? So he looked at the tuba one day and he said, "I hate you."
Ooh.
And he put it in the case and put it in the closet and never, ever got it back out again. He quit school. He went to a Bible college and he began to think back, what is my deepest dream? It was never to be a tuba player, although it came into focus. He said, when I was a little kid, I wanted to be a preacher. He said that was my dream. I grew up with it all the way through my life. Preacher, 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 and then I got a tuba. And he said, when I went to Bible college, then all of a sudden the preacher came back out of me. And I was dreaming big. And he said, here I am today. Guess what I'm doing? I gave up the tuba, but right now I am the president of the university. My deepest dream far surpassed what a tuba player is.
Is that Joseph Castleberry?
That's Castleberry.
I've been to that college with Dan Betzer up in Kirkland, Washington. I've been there.
Wow, that's a great concert. We had
a great place, man.
Great concert that day. We had 1,000 kids in the school, and the chorus got to sing, and they gave us 3 songs.
Your old friend D.V. Hurst was the president back then. D.V. Hurst?
No, Castleberry was already there.
Was he there?
But we knew the other guy too, and we got to the concert. We were doing chapel, and we sang the first song. 1,000 kids clapped their hands off, but we quit. So then we got shut down, and we started singing the second song, and they clapped again with the third song. They wouldn't quit clapping, and the president was going to preach that day. So I looked at him, and I said, look, they won't quit clapping. They 3, 4, 5 minutes, they were clapping like crazy. And so the president finally got up and said, look, I'm supposed to preach today, but you like these guys better than me today. So the whole morning is theirs. And he said, I'll come at the end and tell you about my book. And that's how I got into learning about the tuba and how he looks at his life now 50 years later. I could have been a tuba player, but look, I am the president of the university.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. So what?
God's dreams for us are bigger than our own dreams. Sometimes.
Deepest dreams, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
You got a deep dream? Let's talk about it.
I'll tell you, I've the dreams I've had when I was a kid and as I grew up, I've pretty much reached
accomplished them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I didn't accomplish them. God accomplished them in me. I can't take credit for any
but
of
you're not,
crazy things that
Jack is
happened to us. But here's the thing, though. You kindled something in me when you began to talk about Ecuador, because it was my relative that gave his life, that flew that plane. We're going to see the movie about it tonight. That flew that plane and actually got that whole mission started in that jungle. My relative gave his life to establish that missionary place, and you give me a chance to go,
We're going in February of next year.
and all of a sudden that's become a dream.
Maybe that was a 5-year-old dream that
I'll tell
was
you,
the deepest dream.
I'll tell you, Jim, it's going to shock you. Your buddy Dwayne that you sang with for all those years, okay? He told us a few years ago, he said, look, he said, we're not going to be able to go and do those. We've gone to 60 countries. All the missionaries wanted us to come. We can't do it anymore. You and Anita can. He said, you guys are still young enough. You can go do it. He said, you're still traveling and everything else. He said, I'm going to contact some of those missionaries and see if they'll let you come in our stead. They're asking us to come. We can't come. So he went over to Poland. He called the main missionary in Poland. He said, send them along. We'll come. So we haven't been able to do that yet. When we went out, we got our passports. And they told us, you can get two kinds of passports. One with just a few pages. You can get one with like 25 pages in it. I said, well, how much is the difference in cost? They said, well, no difference. It's the same price. People want the thin one, so it's easy to put in their pocket. I said, you give me the biggest one you got, man. Because they said, when it's filled up, you're going to have to buy a new one. I said, give me the biggest one because we're going to go visit. So that's part of our dream, too. We would like to go and follow up on what you guys did. We won't do it as well, but go out there and be a shot in the arm to some of those missionaries, and maybe Ecuador can be the beginning for us.
Praise God. Well, Jack, you're here too, and you're my guest today on my program, part of this big preach-a-thon, or story-a-thon, or dream-a-thon. What is your deepest dream?
You know, I believe in Romans it says the gifts and the calling of God are without repentance. They're not going to be taken away from us. And you know, I've been a career man, unlike the two of you who have pretty much preached the gospel all of your lives. I worked and raised a family in a traditional secular job, and
that's a ministry too.
It is. You know, when I was in high school, my dream was to become a cabinet maker, a carpenter, like Jesus. Although at that time I wasn't thinking like Jesus, but that's what I wanted to do. And I decided, because I wanted to continue playing football, as a lot of teenage kids do, to go on to a 4-year school and play ball. And my dad said you had to major in something academic, so I took chemistry, became a chemistry teacher and a chemistry professor. And in the course of that, I've always witnessed for Christ in the classroom. Got in trouble a few times in public schools, but
wow.
So sharing the gospel has always been part of my dream. And, you know, you mentioned Elizabeth Elliot. My wife and I, even before we were married, were committed to Christ and committed to sharing the gospel. And we went to Urbana, Illinois, the Student Mission Conference with InterVarsity Christian Fellowship in 1981. We actually heard Elizabeth Elliot speak.
Wow. And
we heard Billy Graham and a couple other fairly well-known ministers. And so I've always been familiar with her story almost since I gave my heart to Christ. And I felt that my wife and I, that we had a call to missions. And that was always a dream of ours. And we did, the first summer we were married, we spent the entire summer in British Columbia with Native American, Canadian Indians. And we're going in that direction, but God moved in a way, and He really clearly spoke to me, not in an audible voice, to stay and help my dad raise up this church. My dad started the church in the early 1980s. And I've gone on a number of mission trips in the interim, but we have been discussing, she and I, what do we want to do as we approach retirement? You know, having worked secular jobs up until this point, and we really have a dream to work for the Lord full time. You know, once we're retired, to do something full time that involves sharing the gospel. We're willing to go anywhere in the world, you know, as God calls us. And kind of last year, I lost a very good friend. He passed away due to cancer, and I, knowing that he was really going to see Jesus face to face soon, I wanted to tell him, and I didn't make this last visit, and I wanted to say, you know, Doug, when you see Jesus face to face, ask Him for me. So, give me thousands of souls. I just want to lead thousands of people to Jesus Christ. And so I never got to tell Doug that, but you know, somebody said, you know, you could ask Jesus that yourself. Well, you're right. But that's my passion, is to travel and preach the gospel wherever anybody will listen.
Wow.
Well, this is a different kind of a program that we're having this evening. You're hearing the heart of three guys instead of one. These guys are my friends. I haven't known Jack for a long time, but I do know Cliff for about 50-some years.
Really?
We'll go back that far.
Yeah.
50 years.
Yeah, we do.
Met you in the New England states, way up north.
I met you in Rockaway, New Jersey on April 5th, 1965. Can you believe that?
65. Okay.
That's 53 years ago.
All right. I knew it was over 50 years, so
We're both young then.
we're doing good. We're tackling a deep dream this next year. We have February's not that far off. The first 10 days of February, we're going back to Ecuador. We're going back to see what we could do about helping a village that's been without electric and without good water and without carrying it for many hours in buckets. We're going to help a village.
Tell me about this groundwater. So how does that work?
There's a gravity feed system that doesn't take electric. The farmers are using it now in America for when it doesn't rain. They have this gravity. You put the machine in the water like up on a lake, and I don't know how it works either. But you run a line all the way down. It could be a mile to the village, and when you turn the spigot on, that gravity flow brings the water automatically without any electric. It's a beautiful system, and it's getting big in America. And I decided that when we went to Ecuador, I asked what they needed the most, and they're struggling. They don't want to carry water in a bucket for a mile for years and years. You get tired of that every day. I gotta get up in the morning, go down there and get a bucket of water and carry it all that way. Never. We want to. I have a deep dream about walking away from that village. They have solar electric now that you can put a machine in the sun, and you can have electric for plug-ins in the bottom of the machine. People that haven't had light at night and haven't had how much electric do we use that they don't have? They've never had. You just think of all the things that you do with your electricity. We want to give that kind of machine to those people who have never had. They've lived there for years in the rainforest of Ecuador. So, man, you're going to have to put us on your prayer list and say that those guys that are endeavoring at their age to go to Ecuador and to drive a truck 7 hours to the end of the road from Quito, the airport. There's only one airport in the country. When you get off the airplane, you got to drive that truck for 7 hours, and then you got to get out because it's the end of the road, and there's water. There's a body of water there, and the river, and you'd have to get in a canoe, and for 3 hours you have to paddle your way to the place where you walk. Then after you get out of the canoe, you walk for 5 miles into the village, and people that have needed so many things. I'm getting excited about filling my suitcase just by going down to Dollar Tree and just walk the aisles. The people that have not had any of that, I am going to fill my basket so full of everything that they have never even seen. They don't even know exists. And if we get 15 guys carrying a 15 bags full of I went to the hardware store and I asked the manager, I said, if I bring 10 guys in here to buy stuff for the mission field, will you give us a discount? He opened up his arms, Dave. Oh, man. Bring him. We're all going down there together to the hardware store. You know how much you can do? Nails, screws, a hammer, a saw. They don't. Who knows what they have?
Well, I reached out to some friends about what it would cost to buy a solar generator that you hook up, and it's got batteries, and it will, during the daytime, it will pull that energy from the sun and charge up those batteries, and at night you can run washing machines, refrigerators, power tools, you can run lights. And I said, can we get a good deal on it? And I was told, you know what? You present this need, and maybe some generators can be donated to what you're going to do.
Amen.
Wow.
Awesome.
Praise God.
You know what? I've been praying on this trip. I've been saying, God, give us favor. Give us favor with people that we're willing to go. Give us favor with people that will help us be able to bring these gifts. Give us favor with people that can help us, and I believe He's doing that.
Amen. Amen.
Well, Jack, where are you? What are you thinking about when you hear what we're saying? I mean, is there
Jack wants to go
anything-
on this trip.
Is there anything that's hitting? Oh, or are you saying you guys are crazy? Leave me out of it.
No, I would love to go on the trip if there's a possible way for me to be able to do that, but it will depend upon schedule.
All right.
You're reminding me, boy, without electricity in the early '90s, I flew down with one of the young men in my youth in to La Paz, Bolivia, up in the Andes Mountains, and we were way up high in the villages, 14,000 feet above sea level, and preached in a number of little churches that had one coal oil lamp.
Wow.
And I just don't see how the people survived. It's we're so gifted here in the United States. People
And they don't know what they're missing.
They don't. No, they don't. They absolutely don't.
Thank the Lord, if they ever visited America for a month and then go home, they would be frustrated.
Well, that's why nobody wants to go back once they come here. No, I think that's going to be a wonderful trip, and I will support you in any way that I possibly can, even if I can't go.
All right. I want to challenge you that are driving the truck. Is that your deepest dream? Is that where you really want to be? Driving trucks, boy, there's 8 million of them in America. Beautiful rigs that just ride like better than a Cadillac. They have 40 feet behind them, some 50 feet. What a privilege to do that. I'm not knocking truck drivers, because if you got it in your home, the truck brought it.
That's right.
Yeah, and so
keep this country going.
I gotta thank the trucker business 1,000 times for what I have in my house and what's available to me, because I know you brought it. So thank you for being a truck driver. Thank you for caring for me and my family and bringing to my home all those thousands of things that some people never have even seen, that don't even know they exist. And you, as a driver, you spend the loneliest hours of your life behind the wheel. You've tried music, you've tried radio, you've tried talk radio. Some of you have finally latched onto this kind of a program that comes from preachers. And we have 3 of them in the studio today that are talking to you about life. Life. It's life. Well, I've been watching Jack here, listening to what we're talking about Ecuador, and I know that in his heart there's something moving just like mine. I'm emotional about what I'm doing. I can't help but weep at times for where God is allowing me to be at my age. A lot of people looking at me saying, Dave, you're 83 this month. I've got a birthday in about, 29th? And I'll be 83. And people are saying, Dave, you're done. Forget it. Sit in your rocking chair and live your life. And I say to them, I'm going. I'm going because God is going to grant me that favor and give me the ability to do what is impossible in so many minds' eyes. You guys think I'm crazy?
Nope. No. This is life. I mean, Paul said, woe is me if I preach not the gospel.
That's the way I am.
If you're crazy, it's contagious, I'm telling you.
Amen.
I've talked to about 15 guys in our church, and every one of them responded in a yes, put me down. Huh? What?
Amen.
When I left that, we were drinking coffee right there. And when I left there, I thought, I'm expecting that kind of a feat.
That's right.
And what do you do when you get that? You say, "Praise God, we're rolling." And I got about 15 guys right now that are just that way. They've responded and said, "I haven't done anything for the Lord yet. I can't go in any more years without getting involved, and you giving me the chance. If you saying, Dave, I can go, I'm going."
That's great. Fantastic.
My granddaughter came home from college, where she works in the university in Florida. And she said, "Pappy, what are you doing these days at your age?" And I told her my story. You know what she did? She said, "Pappy, where do I sign the paper? I'm going."
Whoa.
Amen. Awesome.
So Tori,
Yeah.
she's 24, 25 years old. That's a beautiful young lady. I don't know how ladies are going to make it, but Tori, she can make it through anything. We could climb Mount Kilimanjaro and she'd be there. So that's what life is reaching to others and say, "Look, how about this? How about this? Would you like to dream about that?" Our church has a couple hundred people, I think, that have gone to missions trips. And I'm talking in a couple of weeks. I'm preaching on the 29th. Every year
On your birthday.
Every year on my birthday, the pastor gives me the chance to preach. And I have been preparing myself, trying to get ready for that. And I'm preaching a message that's going to be a foreign missions message. I'm going to end up challenging my church to get involved in the mission program. Our church we'll never get our new church until we get a missions program going.
You know, my old boss, Dan Betzer, used to say God only had one son, and he was a missionary.
That's right.
Anyway, I'm doing a lot of talking here, but
No,
it's
your
a part
program.
of it's a part of my
It's
life.
your passion, man. I love it.
It's my deepest dream right now.
You're like Caleb, you know. He was 80 in his 80s, and he said, "Give me that mountain over there.
Right.
I'm still dreaming.
Yes, sir.
I got more to do." You're just getting started, man.
Right. You know what I need? I need a chiropractor to go with us, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. When I was in Danforth, I took a missions trip with my church to Panama. But when I got to Panama, I discovered that the jungle, the Darien jungle, is 150 miles away from the city. And I had enticed my people from being the pastor. And I took a chiropractor and didn't even know it, okay? I didn't even know what he was. I didn't
You
know.
got an excellent one right here, Christian chiropractor, right here in this area.
Yeah.
Is that you took?
Yeah, no, I wasn't the guy from Davenport.
You were Davenport.
Okay, when we get to Panama City, I found out that the Darien jungle, they had 8 hours. You could walk 8 hours to the final jungle, and all these little, you could preach in every one of them. Every hour in the hour, you reach a different little community, okay? So we drove 150 miles to the Darien jungle, got out there in the middle of it all, and the chiropractor, he came to me and he said, "Dave, I'll work on these people in this village." He said, "You just announce it." So we announced it and said, "Okay, come, everybody come. The chiropractor's going to work on you, make you feel good."
Amen.
Well, they thought we were spooky, and they thought that we were the
witch doctor.
No.
And so we got the head honcho, and we put him on the table, and the whole village watched what the chiropractor did. And you know what? Everybody said, me. And 10 hours later, 10 hours he worked on everybody. And for every day he was there, the table was full. And 2 months later, I get a letter from Panama City, and it says, "Please come back. And if you can't, just send the chiropractor." Just send the chiropractor. Everybody loved him.
I'm sure.
And they're ready to get their bodies worked on again.
Wow.
Oh,
That's hilarious.
isn't that a great story about a mission trip that you never planned on anything happening?
You know, some of you saying, but how can God use me? What can God do with me? Do you remember the old story? It went around for years. It's a true story about John the Hottentot from the Hottentot tribe. Do you remember about that?
No, I haven't heard that.
What happened was there was a Bible school. It was some 200 miles, if I remember the story correctly, about 200 miles away from the village. And so all the young guys that had gotten saved by the missionary, they wanted to go to the Bible school to learn to become preachers. And John from the Hottentot tribe, he wanted to go too, but he was kind of challenged. You know, years ago we used to call it retarded. We don't use that word anymore, but he had some learning disabilities. And so they all went together as a group, and they all go there to the Bible school 200 miles away. And they told John, they said, John, you're not going to be able to stay. You're going to have to go back all the way to the village all by yourself. Everybody else can stay, but you can't. You've got learning disabilities. You won't be able to do the work. And they said, I'm sorry, but you never can be a preacher. You're not going to be able to do this. And he was brokenhearted. He made his way back to his village all by himself. And he stopped in this one village, and there the chief guy, the chief person in charge of that tribe, his son was deathly ill. And John the Hottentot said, can I pray for him? And he prayed for him, and God raised him up. And so they said, how did that happen? He said, because of Jesus. Let me tell you stories about Jesus.
Amen.
And that whole village came to know Jesus because of John giving his little witness. And then he became the pastor. He became the preacher. He had the whole village. He beat every one of those other guys to being out there and work. Because when you have a want to and God puts a calling on your life, it doesn't matter about your abilities. God's more interested in your availability than he is your ability.
Amen. That's exactly right.
Jesus said he can cause the very rocks to cry out and praise him. So God can give ability to a rock. He can give ability to anybody. And so God, if he puts that want to in your heart, God can use you. And that tells me, Dave, there's hope for me.
Right. Hey, I said that I'm looking for a chiropractor to go to Ecuador. I'm also looking for a photographer, somebody who can make us a movie, not a picture, a movie.
There you go.
So if I can find those two people, I would feel like, wow, I am ready for this trip like never before. So
You have lots of time to find them.
I do. I have
Months.
I got a feeling they're going to find you
That's true.
because God's in this thing.
Well, if it goes out over here, if we have 5,000 truckers listening tonight, maybe one of them could take 10 days off, and he knows all about making a movie. We have a lot of people could make movies, but they can't go to the mission field. Mm-hmm. Nobody ever invited them. Nobody ever absolutely needed them. And I think we can make a great film coming out of this trip.
So, Dave, if somebody listening today would feel led, I really need to go with Dave on this mission trip, how would they contact you? I'm just curious. I'm a newbie here, and I've often thought if somebody had a question that they wanted to ask the radio preacher, is there a way for them to actually contact us?
Sure. You have time to get a pen yet? Put it down in your brain. Dave Kyllonen. Kyllonen. Dillsburg, Pennsylvania. Okay? And if you'd like to email me, it's djkyllonen@yahoo.com. That's easy too. So, you never know what's going to happen. Somebody might be there today. Just God put you right where you need to be to hear this broadcast. See these guys who have become my friends, and we put this 2-hour program together. We still have like 30 minutes, guys. We have been talking about a lot of stuff, and dreaming is one of them. I bet you guys as truck drivers, I bet you dream so much when you're driving. There's nothing else to do. It's to sit there and dream about getting back home and how you're going to spend the money you're making and what are you going to do with that money. You get that new car, you get that new boat. And there's a lot of things that you dream about. Why not get a deep dream, a big one? Wow. I thank the Lord for you guys that have come here today and helped me on my program. If you want to speak to something,
what were
new
your
or
dreams
anything,
when you were growing up?
you know what? I never got. We didn't have a youth group. My family was poor. We didn't have any money.
You were telling me last night about how your pastor, how he worked in your life, and you had that want to in your heart, and I think it was an amazing story you told me last night.
Oh man, I went to school.
We got 20 minutes here. You can tell us that story.
I went to school. I was a nobody. I was a misfit. I had never said hello to my mother. I couldn't talk to anybody. I was a.
That's funny.
I went to the pastor.
Your mother's quite the preacher. I'll tell you.
I went to the pastor and I said, Pastor, what can I do to find God? Well, how can he talk to me? Would he talk to me? And the pastor said, Dave, why don't you go to Bible school? And after 4 years, God will talk to you somewhere. And I said, well, I'll have to get a job and make some money because I don't have a dime. I don't have any clothes to wear. I can't go to Bible school. I have no clothes. And he said, Dave, if you don't go now, you won't go. The devil will talk you out of it. He'll give you something else to do in the next year. You've graduated from high school. The next year is going to be tough on you for the world to reach for you, Dave. And then you need to go to Bible school in 2 weeks. Now, I'll call the president. I know him well. And I'll get you into school. I said, I don't have any money. He said, I'll tell you what they'll do. They'll look at you and they'll let you come to school. And if you get a job and pay your bill by Christmas, they'll let you come to school. And I said, and if I don't get a job, they said, well, then you can just quit. And you'll know God didn't want you. God didn't need you. And I didn't. Wow, I didn't know how to get a job. What job? What can I do? What work can I work? Come on. And when I went to the publishing house, I went to the Gospel Publishing House, the big publishing company for the Assemblies of God. I went there to get a job. I was scared to death. I was shaking, and I walked up to the publishing house, and there was 50 people in line in front of me. And I said, God, I'm not going to get a job with 50 people in front of me. And I stood there for a long time, and 4:30 came, and they closed the door, and the lady came out and said, okay, all the rest of you have to come back tomorrow. We didn't get to you today. Come early tomorrow, and we'll get an interview out of you. And I said, I got to come back here tomorrow, 50 more people. I got to come early. And I thought, there's 7 colleges in Springfield, Missouri. Surely all of them have 50 people that are looking for a job. There's about 500 jobs, and I'm here, never had a job. What am I going to do? And then I remembered as I prayed. Everybody left, and I was in the parking lot all by myself. And I said, Lord, you got to help me. And the Lord said, do you know last year you went to school and you took the course that everybody laughed at you about? You took typing. And everybody laughed at you, Dave. You were the only boy in a class of 35 girls. And I said, when I got in that class, I said, I'm the kind of guy, I can put my life into this, and I can beat all these girls with a typewriter. And while they talked and yacked and did all that kind of stuff, I was over there really working in the board. I was going, and I finally said, Lord, thank you. You just reminded me of something. And I took the piece of paper that the lady had left for all of us to sign and bring it tomorrow. I got the paper out and I said, okay, I put it across the top of the line, top of the paper. I can type 90 words a minute without making a mistake. Wow. Big letters, signed to Dave Kyllonen, slipped it under the door and went back to school. The next morning, man, I'm emotional. This is 60 years ago. Next morning, the phone rang in the dorm, and And everybody started yelling, Dave Kyllonen, Dave Kyllonen. Who's Dave Kyllonen? We just started school. They didn't know me. And the phone was for you. So I went down to the hall and I grabbed the phone. I said, hello. She said, are you Dave Kyllonen? I said, yes. She said, if you can prove at 1 o'clock today that you can type 90 words a minute, without making a mistake. I worked at the publishing house. 4 years.
Yeah.
Paid my school bill. I had money to pay. They gave me my own private truck to drive.
Amen.
Oh, man.
I never heard that story.
I lived
incredible.
I lived higher.
What a testimony. That's incredible.
You guys are going to have to take this program over. I can't talk
But
anymore.
when he calls you to something, he equips you.
Amen. That's right.
He's going to equip you. I mean, people get the idea, well, Lord, if you ask me to do something and I say yes, how do I work all the rest of it out? Well, I think Moses was in that situation. Egypt was the most powerful nation on the face of the earth. And God said, I want you to go to Pharaoh, the most powerful person on the earth, and say, you've got 2.5 million people that are slaves for you that you're actually having do all your work for you without paying them. And God says, let that whole slave labor, let them go. And Moses must have said, you got to be kidding me. I mean, how in the world? When I walk up there before the Pharaoh and I say, hey, king, God says to take your entire labor force and let them go free, he's going to say, who told you to say that? Who do I say? He say, you tell him my name is I am. You say, I am told me to go.
You're right.
And oh my word. But you know what he was saying? I am. He identified himself as being the I am. We call it a blank check today. What do you need, Dave? You need a job? God says, I am a job. You say, I need some healing? God says, I am healing.
That's good.
I need to be forgiven? God said, I am forgiveness. He says, you need restoration in your family? He says, I am peace. God defines himself as saying, I am whatever you need. And Jesus carries that on.
That's good.
He was talking to the people and they wanted to stone him because he said, Abraham would rejoice to see my day. They said, what are you talking about? You're not even 50 years old yet. Abraham's been in the ground all these years and you're saying that Abraham, how do you know Abraham? He said, before Abraham was, I am. And when he said that, he declared himself. What did he say to Martha? When she said, it's too late. You could have done it 4 days ago, but it's too late. I am. The resurrection. You need resurrection? I am resurrection. You see, and he stands there saying, what is it you need, Dave? Young Dave, you need a job? I am a job. He is the great I am that just will, when he calls you, just say yes. Moses said, I can't do anything. I can't even talk right. I stutter. What am I supposed to do? He said, what's in your hand? I just had a stick in my hand. Well, throw it on the ground. It became a serpent. And it said, I love Moses. He ran. That's what I would have done. I would have run too. And he said, pick it up by the tail. He said, say what? Pick it up by the tail. The biggest miracle in the world is that he picked it up. It became a stick again.
That's right.
He said, I can't do anything. He said, hey, can you go before Pharaoh? Can you take your stick and throw it on the ground? Do it on the ground. It became a serpent. Pharaoh looked at his magicians and his sorcerers and his witchcraft people and said, can you do that? He said, yeah. They threw their sticks on the ground and they became serpents. And then Moses' serpent went and ate all theirs up.
Amen.
You see, when God says do something, we just say okay, and we just say yes, and he's the one that does the hard stuff. David says, how am I going to get this Goliath? This guy's 10 feet tall. How am I going to bring him down? He says, well, you got pretty good with that sling. Well, when you get pretty practiced with that sling when animals will come after your sheep. Go down to the stone. Go down to the brook and get yourself 5 stones. Can you throw a sling? That armor had only one place where that wasn't protected. That was in the middle of that man's forehead. And David threw the stone, but God guided it. You see, we do the easy stuff. He does the hard stuff. But I'll tell you what he won't do. He won't force a young Dave Kyllonen to say yes. He won't tell you, you've got to say yes. When I call you, he's not going to say, you have to say yes. He gives you a free will. You made that choice, and you said, I'm going to step out like Peter on the side of the boat. I'm going to step out where there's no sidewalk and just walk out there as if there was one. You took a big step of faith. You got yourself, man, you were 1,000 miles from home. And you said, I'm going to take a chance. And I'm going to send me back at Christmas time and say, you're out of money, you can't come back anymore. But you took that chance. And the thing is, when God calls you, you take that step of faith, He's going to put the sidewalk under your feet. That's what He did for you, man.
Thank you for being a part of our program today. We're coming down to the end. What do we have? We have about 10 minutes?
Not even. We got about 7 minutes.
7 minutes.
6 or 7 minutes.
All right. What have you got to say, Jack?
What have I? You put me on the spot, brother.
Maybe Cliff. Well, Cliffy, he's giving so much new stuff that I never even heard out of his heart. Praise God.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm here today and in the ministry today because you and Neil Enlow and Dwayne Nicholson and Don Baldwin, you invested part of yourselves in my life. You saw some struggling young guy and you said, we're going to help him. We're going to believe in him. We'd be out in the crowd and you say, hey, come on up and sing a song. And people would say, oh, we don't want to hear that. We came here to the Couriers. We didn't come to hear them. But you bring us up there and say, Cliff, sit down at the piano. You play. We're going to sing a song. You play for us. And I'm on the radio because you're the one that said, hey, Cliff, come on.
You're on here too?
Share my radio program. I'm on the radio here with Judy and Bill every single week because you said, hey, Cliff, just like you did with Jack, come on the radio. And I'm going to share my radio program with you. And so I'll tell you what, Paul told Timothy, Timothy knew that Paul learned what he learned because people like Barnabas took him aside and tucked him under his wing. And Paul knew that he was a product of the people that had mentored him. And he said, basically, Timothy, you've seen what happened to me. I want you to go out and find people that can learn, and I want you to teach and commit the things you learned from me to other people that will be able to do the same thing with other people and mentor them. And, now we have Bible colleges and we have all kinds of structures and all kinds of institutions where our kids go and they try to learn how to become, they become trained in the ministry. And that's fine and that's wonderful and that's of God. But it began where someone would take you under their wing and they would mentor you, and these guys have done that for us. And so our ministry today, we are. And I'll tell you what, you look at their book, right on the beginning pages. The Booth Brothers says the Couriers were our mentor, #1 group in the country for 9 years, and they said we learned it all from the Couriers. They were the ones that helped us. I remember you helped young Bill Gaither get going. You helped him so much in the early years, and Mark Trammell, Gerald Wolfe, they all sing your praises. The Hoppers, all these groups that people see on the Gaither videos, they all say, you know what, the Couriers, Cathedral put it in their book. They said we would have been bankrupt. We would have been out of business. It was the Couriers that helped us. You've invested yourself in the lives of other people. You weren't selfish with what God gave you. You shared it. And we all stand here. Nick Bruno and I were talking not long ago about how if it wasn't for Dave, Wayne, and Neil, if it wasn't for you guys and how you poured yourself into his ministry, he wouldn't be doing what he's doing today. And he's going out there mentoring groups and helping people. So I just love you, Dave. I love Judy. I love your family. I love your partners because you guys literally gave of yourself. People will give money. They'll give time. They'll give everything. But people don't want to give of themselves. But you gave of yourself. And it made a difference in my family's life. My boy, all my kids, serving God, involved in ministries. Guess what? It comes from what you guys invested in our lives.
When I was at that Urbana conference many, many years ago, I remember hearing, I don't know who it was, but they said, the gospel, Christianity in America is only one generation away from extinction.
Wow.
And it didn't hit me right away. But it's because there's not enough men and women like Brother Dave. And, Dave, I see you believing in the younger generation, you wanting to pass the torch, not just to your family. Your family's important. They have to be taken care of, but sowing seed into other people. And I agree with Brother Cliff here and how you have done that. And, whenever you go on to meet Jesus, hopefully it's a long, long time from now, your legacy will live long, long past your physical presence on this earth. And we need more men and women to be able to do that. And that is, you asked me about a dream a while ago. That is what I aspire to do. I have 3 grandsons, and I am believing God that my influence will make them preachers of righteousness, and that
What a lofty goal.
when I'm
That's your
long
dream.
gone, they'll still be preaching. Yes, sir.
That's great.
Beautiful.
I love you guys. Thank you for your kind words. It's a joy to have been with you who are listening and tuned. We did a 2-hour program this evening. It was a delight to even dream it up. I think Cliff came up and said, "Why don't we do a program with the 3 of us?" And I thought, well, this is way out, but it's done pretty good. Okay, we have a couple more minutes. I'd just like to pray with you, all right? I've been emotional in this program. I don't know when I've been so emotional about what we're doing. I'm wanting to help you as a trucker, as somebody who's delivering the goods every day. Are you happy with your life? Why don't you try and see if you can serve the Lord with it? The Lord might want you to do something else. There's something that maybe you could change the way you live. That's what I want to pray with you about. Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for an opportunity of ministering to people that we never dreamed would ever turn the dial and catch our program. And tonight we have done that. We have spent 2 hours here talking about a lot of stuff. And a lot of it is life-changing. Lord, life-changing. We've made some changes in our life from beginning to end. And we're not through with that yet. We're still adventuring in things that we think will serve the Lord in a tremendous way. What we're doing for you, Lord, is breathtaking. Breathtaking. It's stopped us in our tracks. It's moved our lives in a direction we never dreamed possible. And there's a lot of people that are listening tonight that want to do the same thing, Lord. They want to, they feel that breathtaking moment. They feel the power of God speaking into their truck and into their very heart. And I pray, Lord, that in these moments that we spend on a Monday will not be in vain, but they will be life-changing. And may we hear about it in the days to come for your honor and for your glory. Thank you for hearing our prayer. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.